He stole my wife. He stole my company. He left me broken. 15 years later, his daughter called me dad, and that's when everything started to fall apart again. Let me take you back. 15 years ago, I thought I had it all. A wife I loved, a best friend I trusted like a brother, and a startup that was finally turning the corner. That best friend was James. We built the business from nothing. Dorm room prototypes, energy drinks, burnout, fundraising calls. It was hell, but we made it. He was my best man at the wedding, godfather to the child we never ended up having, the one person I thought would never betray me. Then, one normal Thursday, I came home early from a trip. Emily, my wife, didn't know I was coming back that night. I stopped at her favorite bakery, grabbed cinnamon rolls, and smiled the whole drive home. The smile dropped the second I stepped inside. Too quiet. Then I heard them, muffled laughter from upstairs. Her laugh, followed by his. I froze. I remember that moment like a slow-motion scene in a movie. The half-open bedroom door. The two of them tangled in sheets. The way she reached for him. The way he kissed her like it was normal. Like I didn't exist. I didn't scream. Didn't punch anyone. Didn't say a word. I just backed away. Down the stairs. Out the door. Straight to my car. I sat in that car for 5 hours. Didn't drive. Didn't move. Just stared. 3 days later, it got worse. My lawyer called. James had moved funds behind my back. Transferred ownership of IP. Opened a shell company. Took half the team. I lost my business overnight. That weekend, I lost everything. My marriage, my future, my identity. The pain wasn't like a wound. It was like a hole. As if someone had scooped out the core of who I was and left a shell walking around in my body. I left the city, rented a 1-bedroom in a town where no one knew my name. I didn't bring photos, didn't keep friends, deleted every contact. Trust, dead. Ambition, buried. Hope, not welcome. I freelanced, paid bills, ate alone. And every night I'd ask the ceiling, why the hell did he do it? There was never an answer. Years passed. 7, then 10. Eventually I stopped talking to the ceiling. And then, one rainy Tuesday, I met her. It was the kind of day where the sky never gets bright. I was at my usual cafe, laptop open, headphones in. Then, bump. Hot coffee spilled down my sleeve. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," a young woman said, eyes wide. I waved it off, told her not to worry, gave a smile, the first real one in weeks. She apologized 5 more times before sitting nearby. We got to talking. Her name? Lena. Age 20. Pre-med. Working 2 jobs. Helping her mom through chemotherapy. No dad around. I nodded, polite. Then she said her full name. Lena Williams. I felt like someone dropped a brick into my chest. Williams. James's last name. She had no idea who I was, but I knew exactly who she was. Her voice. Her eyes. Her sarcasm. It all reminded me of him. But twisted in the opposite direction. She was kind, thoughtful, sharp. Not manipulative. Not fake. She had none of his poison. And she was struggling. Broke. Tired. Alone. I went home that night and didn't sleep. I sat in bed staring at the wall, with rain tapping the window like a metronome of bad memories. Was this fate? A second chance? Or just one last cruel joke? I could have walked away. Should have. But something in me, something bitter and broken, whispered, "Raise the daughter he threw away. Do what he couldn't. Be who he'll never be." The next morning, I made a decision. I called her school, covered her full tuition. No name, no note. I told myself it was revenge, but that was a lie. It felt good, too good. Not just the power, the purpose, the first real sense of meaning I'd had in years. 2 weeks later, I heard a knock on my office door. I opened it. Lena stood there, nervous, holding a tuition invoice. Her eyes scanned my face. "You paid for me, didn't you?" she asked. And just like that, the ghost of my past walked right through the front door. I didn't answer right away. She looked so much like him now. The same jawline, the same way she raised her eyebrow when she was confused. But she wasn't him. She had questions. And I had a choice. Lie or break everything wide open. I motioned for her to sit. She hesitated, then walked in slowly, placing the paper on my desk like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Why would you do that for someone you just met?" she asked. Her voice was firm, but her eyes were vulnerable. She wasn't angry. She wasn't accusing me. She just wanted to understand. "I didn't do it for someone I just met," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" I paused. Then I told her the truth. Not all of it, but just enough to shatter the wall between us. "Your father, James Williams, he used to be my business partner. My best friend." Her mouth opened slightly. She blinked fast. "I knew him long before you were born. We started a company together. Built it from scratch." I didn't say more. "Not yet." She sat back stunned. "You knew my dad?" "I did." "Where is he?" I shrugged. "Last I heard, he left. Just like you said. No note. No money. Just gone." I could see the gears turning in her head. "So you paid for me because you knew him?" I took a breath. "Because I knew what he left behind." There was a long silence. She looked down at her hands, then back up at me. "I don't remember much about him," she said. "Just flashes, a deep voice, a smell, and then nothing. My mom never talks about him." I nodded. "She's protecting you." Lena's eyes were full of questions, but she didn't press further. Instead, she said something I didn't expect. "You didn't have to do any of this. I know. But you did anyway." "I did." She stared at me. And then she smiled. It wasn't big, wasn't flashy, just soft, grateful. We sat there for a while, two strangers connected by the same ghost. And then she stood up. "I don't know what this is," she said, "or what it means. But thank you," I nodded. As she opened the door to leave, she turned and asked, "Can I see you again?" That question hit me harder than her first. Because now this wasn't just about tuition. This was about time. About presence. About something real. And I wasn't sure I deserved that. But I said yes anyway. That was the beginning. We met again the next week. Then again. Then again. Lunches turned into long conversations. Conversations turned into routine. We didn't talk about James. Not yet. We talked about her classes, her mom's health, the pressure she felt to be strong all the time, and sometimes about nothing at all. And each time we met, I felt something shift inside me. Not revenge, not guilt, just something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace doesn't last when it's built on secrets. One night, we stayed at the cafe past closing. Rain tapped on the windows and we sat in silence. She looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like she'd been carrying too much for too long. "I don't think I've ever had a man in my life who just listened," she said. "Didn't try to fix me, just sat with me." I didn't say anything, because I was afraid my voice would crack. She looked at me and smiled. "You remind me of someone I wish I had growing up." Then she leaned back and closed her eyes. And for a moment it felt like the world paused. I watched her, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way she breathed like she finally felt safe. And all I could think was, she can never find out the rest of the truth. Because the full story wasn't just betrayal. It was rage. It was vengeance. It was me using her, at first, as a weapon against her father. And no matter how much my motives had changed, the stain was still there. Later that night, alone in bed, I stared at the ceiling. Same way I did all those years ago when James ruined my life. Only now it wasn't rage in my chest. It was fear. Fear of losing something I hadn't even realized I wanted. I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't playing out some revenge fantasy. I was becoming what she believed I already was. And that scared the hell out of me. Because eventually, one of two things would happen. Either I'd have to tell her everything, or someone else would do it for me. And that someone was closer than I thought. It started with a message. Block number. One sentence. We need to talk. It's about Lena. I stared at it for 5 minutes before I responded. Who is this? No answer. Then a second message popped up. You already know, and I did. Even before I read the name that came next. James. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard his voice in 15 years. But just reading his name was enough to bring the bile up. I felt it all over again. The betrayal. The rage. The hollow silence after the crash. What did he want now? Why now? Because of her, obviously. Because he had finally heard that I was in her life. And like every coward, he only came back when he smelled something he could lose. I didn't respond. For 3 days I ignored the texts, deleted them, blocked him. But then Lena said something that forced my hand. We were walking back from the hospital after one of her mom's treatments. Lena was quiet, unusually so. Finally, she said, "My dad texted me." I stopped walking. She kept her eyes on the pavement. He found me on social media. I didn't even know he was alive. Said he wanted to talk. Said he's changed. I didn't say anything. Because I didn't know how to breathe. What should I do? She asked softly. I don't know him, she continued. But he's my dad. And part of me, I don't know, wants to know why he left. Wants closure, I guess. Still, I said nothing. Not yet. Then she looked up at me and said the words I feared most. He said, "You're not who I think you are." Boom. Just like that. The world tilted. I don't believe him, she added quickly. But I needed to tell you. I nodded. That night I didn't sleep. Again. But not from guilt. From anger. Because after everything, after abandoning his daughter, after disappearing for over a decade, James had the audacity to come back and poison her with doubt. And worst of all, she was listening, even if she didn't want to, even if she didn't believe him fully. The seed had been planted, so I called him. Burner number. Private line. He picked up on the first ring. David, he said like nothing ever happened. We met 2 days later. Neutral ground. Public cafe. He looked older, worn, but still had that smug energy under his fake humility. You've been busy, he said as he sat across from me. Playing dad. I didn't respond. I should have figured it out sooner, he said. But Lena kept it vague. Then I heard your name from one of her professors. Imagine my surprise. He sipped his coffee like we were catching up after vacation. What do you want, James? I finally asked. He smirked. I want to know what your angle is. There is no angle. Bullshit. I leaned in, voice low. You left her. You left her mother. You disappeared. I didn't come looking for her. She found me. And yet you didn't tell her who you were. Funny how that works. His eyes darkened. You want to play hero now? Fine. But you're not her father. And you never will be. He stood up, tossed a $5 bill on the table. You had your fun, David. Now step aside. As he turned to walk out, I said, if you really care about her, you'd stay gone. He paused. Then, without turning, said, if I go down, I'm taking you with me. And just like that, he was gone. Again. But this time, he left a storm behind him. Because now it wasn't about money. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't even about the past anymore. It was about her. And the truth was, I didn't care what happened to me. But I'd be damned if I let him destroy her again. I thought I had time. Time to explain. Time to reveal the truth on my own terms. Time to make her trust me before the past caught up. But James didn't wait. He never did. It happened on a Sunday. Rain again. Why is it always raining when everything falls apart? I was in my kitchen, chopping onions for a soup I promised to make for Lena and her mom. We were supposed to have dinner together that night. A rare, peaceful moment. Then my phone buzzed. One message. From Lena. I know everything. That was it. No punctuation. No emojis. Just cold. Final. Heavy. I called her. No answer. I texted. No reply. I drove straight to her apartment. When she opened the door, she didn't speak. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying for hours. She stepped aside. Let me in. Sat on the couch without saying a word. And on the table, a stack of printed emails. James. He'd sent her everything. Pictures from our company. Old newspaper clippings. Messages I'd written back in the day, full of rage, revenge, bitterness. He told her everything. How I found her. Why I started helping. How I never told her the whole truth. I sat down slowly. She finally looked at me. I asked you, she whispered. I gave you every chance. I couldn't speak. You weren't just some kind stranger. You were waiting for revenge. Her voice cracked on the last word. You used me. No, I said finally. Not used. Not anymore. Yes, it started that way. But it changed. You changed it. She shook her head, furious and broken at the same time. I trusted you. I called you my father! Silence. Then she stood up, pacing. I defended you when he messaged me. I told him he didn't know you like I did. But he was right. I didn't know anything. I stood too. Lena, I never wanted to hurt you. Everything I did after that first payment, it was real. She glared at me. So why didn't you tell me the truth? My voice broke. Because I was afraid I'd lose you. She paused. And in that moment, something shifted in her face. A mix of realization and deeper pain. Then you never really trusted me either. That one hit hard. Because she was right. She walked to the door and opened it. I need space, she said. Her voice was hollow, mechanical. I nodded, stepped out, didn't look back. Because if I had, I might have begged. I spent the night staring at my ceiling again, like I had all those years ago. Only this time I wasn't angry. I was empty. The next day I wrote a letter, a real one, handwritten, not to defend myself, not to explain my past, just to tell her what she meant to me now. How every moment we spent together made me realize I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted redemption. But redemption, I knew, wasn't something you could ask for. It had to be earned, or never given at all. I left the letter at her door. Didn't knock. Didn't wait. Just walked away. Then came silence. A full week of it. Every morning I checked my phone like a reflex. Every night I reminded myself, you deserve this. Because I did. But the silence, it was worse than rage. Worse than screaming. It meant she didn't know if I was worth even hating. And maybe I wasn't. I kept working. Kept breathing. Kept pretending like I hadn't lost the only real connection I'd had in 15 years. But nothing tasted right. Nothing sounded real. I didn't go to the cafe. Didn't drive past her school. Didn't call. I waited. And then, a voicemail. Her voice. Soft. Hesitant. Unsteady. I'm not ready to forgive you. But I think I need to understand you. Can we talk? I replayed it 4 times. Not because I didn't hear it, but because I couldn't believe it was real. She wasn't offering a reset. She wasn't offering peace. She was offering a window. One chance to speak. To try. To face everything honestly, maybe for the first time. And I knew, if I messed this up, there would be no second call. We met at the park. Same place we used to walk after her evening classes. Only this time we didn't walk. We sat. On the same bench. 2 feet apart. Like strangers. Like people with too much history and too little time to explain it. She didn't say hello, just looked straight ahead and said, "Talk," not a command. Not cold. Just permission. And I took it. I was angry, I said. Angrier than I'd ever been. When your father betrayed me, it didn't just hurt my business. It hollowed me out. She didn't flinch, just listened. I disappeared. I gave up on everything. And for years, I told myself I didn't care about justice or revenge. But I did. I paused. Took a breath. The first time I saw you, I didn't know who you were. Not right away. But when you told me your name and your story, something inside me clicked. And yeah, at first, it wasn't about helping you. It was about hurting him. Her shoulders tensed. But she didn't interrupt. I paid for your school, anonymously, and I thought that would be the end of it. But you showed up. And you didn't tell me the truth, she said quietly. No, I admitted. Because everything changed. I turned to her. You weren't just his daughter. You were your own person. Smart. Kind. Fierce. And I realized I didn't want revenge anymore. I swallowed hard. I wanted to be the person you thought I was. She turned, finally meeting my eyes. And you thought lying would make that easier? Her voice didn't carry blame, just pain. No, I said. I was scared. I knew I'd lose you if you found out. You lost me anyway, she said. We both sat with that. The air between us wasn't angry, just full of grief, like something had died. And we weren't sure if we should mourn it or try to revive it. Then she spoke again, her voice lower. I used to imagine my real dad coming back one day. When I was little, I had this fantasy he'd show up and explain everything. Tell me he loved me, that it was all a mistake. She looked away. But he never did. A beat. And then you did. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry I ruined that. You didn't ruin it, she said. You complicated it. A small, bitter laugh escaped her lips. I don't know who to be mad at anymore, she said. You? Him? Myself? Not yourself, I said immediately. She shrugged. I trusted too easily. No, you trusted right. I was the one who didn't deserve it. But I'm trying to. Another long pause. Leaves rustled in the trees above us. A kid shouted in the distance. The world moved on like nothing happened. But between us, something had shifted. I read the letter, she said finally. I could tell it was honest. Too honest, maybe. She looked down at her hands. I was mad at you. Still am. But I also know what it's like to make decisions when you're drowning. She took a long breath. And I also know what it feels like to finally feel seen. She looked back at me. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had someone who showed up. I didn't move, didn't breathe. And even if it started with the wrong reasons, the moments were real. Tears burned behind my eyes. I nodded. Every single one. She stood. I stood with her. I'm not saying I forgive you yet, she said. But I'm not shutting the door either. She paused. You're not my father. Biologically. Then she stepped closer. But you were the only one who ever acted like it. My hands shook. I wanted to hug her, but I didn't move. She stepped forward first. One arm, then the other, wrapped around me. Tight. Real. I exhaled like I hadn't in 15 years. We stood like that for a long time. And in those silent seconds, something unspoken passed between us. A fragile, unfinished trust, not rebuilt, but beginning. I don't know what happens next, she whispered. Neither do I replied. But deep down, I did know one thing. James was still out there. And something in his eyes that day told me he wasn't done. He showed up a week later. Not to Lena. Not to me directly. To her mother. At the hospital. He brought flowers. A charming smile. And lies wrapped in silk. Told the nurses he was an old friend. Sat beside her mother's bed, pretending he cared. Lena wasn't there. But the moment her mom texted her, James came by, I knew what was coming. Lena called me that night. I'm scared, she said. Her voice wasn't trembling. It was steady, but cold. I thought I could ignore him, let the past rot where it belongs. But he's trying to pull me back in. I asked, do you want me to talk to him? No, she said. A pause. I want to do it. But I want you there. The next day we met him at a cafe. Same cafe he'd sat in across from me weeks ago. This time he looked polished. Confident. Like a man preparing for a job interview. He smiled when we walked in. Lena, he said like her name was a poem. She sat across from him. I stayed standing. Before you say anything, she cut in. I'm not here to reconnect. He blinked. The smile cracked. I'm here for closure. He chuckled softly. I understand. It's a lot. But I never stop thinking about you. That's funny, she said, because you sure stopped calling. He shifted tactics. Started talking about her childhood, moments he wasn't even there for. As if memories could be fabricated now and glued on top of old wounds. He brought up toys she liked, birthdays he heard about, tears he imagined he dried. Lena stared through him like he was a hologram. You said Mom drove you away, she said. You said you needed time, he nodded. And yet you had time for a new wife, a new business, a whole new family, his jaw tightened. I never stopped loving you. She didn't blink. If you did, you would have come back when I needed you. Not now. Not when you heard someone else did. I watched his eyes dart to me. You still think he deserves you more than I do? He didn't disappear, she said. He didn't lie, James growled. No, she replied. He told me everything. And he stayed even when I hated him for it. James stood. Furious now. Desperate. He used you to get back at me, and then chose not to, she said. A pause. Measured. Brutal. And that's the difference between you two. You run when it's hard. He stayed. He looked at me, eyes burning. You win, he muttered. Then to her, with finality. You'll regret this one day. She didn't respond. He left. And this time I knew it was permanent. We sat there in silence. Lena stared at her tea. I looked out the window, unsure if breathing was allowed again. After a while, she said, I used to dream about him coming back. I know, I said. He always apologized in those dreams. He always meant it. She looked at me. But even in my best dreams, he never stayed long. I nodded. Sometimes closure doesn't come in forgiveness. Sometimes it comes in knowing you were never the problem. That weekend, I came over for dinner. Her mom opened the door, frail, tired, but smiling. Lena was setting the table. There were 3 plates. Hope you're hungry, she said. I swallowed a lump in my throat. Halfway through the meal, she said it. Casually. Naturally. Like it had always been true. Dad, can you pass the salad? My hands froze. She didn't look up. Didn't smirk. It wasn't a joke. It was real. And it broke me. After dinner, I stayed and helped clean. Her mom told stories I'd never heard. Lena laughed more than I'd ever seen her. And when I left, Lena walked me to the car. She hugged me again, tighter this time, and whispered, Thank you for fighting for me, even when I didn't want to be fought for. I looked at her, eyes glassy. You saved me too, you know, she smiled. Then I guess we're even, Dad. We stood under the porch light for a moment. 2 people bound not by blood but by choice. And maybe that's stronger, because this time it wasn't about revenge. It was about redemption. And I finally believed I'd earned it.